Hey, this is Phil LaMarr. You're watching Toy Bounty Hunters Web TV.
Everyone, this is John from Toy Bounty Hunters, and today I have the pleasure of sitting down with Mr. Phil LaMarr. You might know him from such things as Mad TV, as well as Static Shock. In video games, he also did the voice of Vamp in the Metal Gear Solid games, and today he's decided to give us a little bit of his time and tell us about some of his work as we ask him some questions here. So Phil, first, I realized that you started off actually doing the Mr. T cartoon back in the 1980s. How you got your start?
I was in high school, yeah.
Straight out of high school is how they got you to do
it was
it?
during high school.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's very interesting.
Just, more random chance than a career choice. It was, I kind of don't even count it, because it wasn't a voiceover job. I mean, it was, but it wasn't like an intention. It was just my summer job, you know.
Wow.
But yeah, I wound up getting my union card that way. So later on, many years later, when I decided to become an actor, it was, a good leg up.
Start there. That's good. Now, I know you've been in films as well. I know you did Pulp Fiction.
Right.
Obviously, Marvin. Everybody knows Marvin. Now, I heard you say before in the past that with voice actors, and actors, there's kind of, when you go in to do certain things, I guess, voice actors aren't looked at always the same way as, on-screen actors. Could you elaborate a little bit about that?
Well, I don't know. There are all these different fields as an actor. And when I was getting into the business, you didn't pick. You just tried to get work, whatever it was. Whether it was stage work, whether it was sitcom work, whether it was movies, voiceover, it was all work. And it's sort of funny to me because nowadays, I'll come here and there's somebody's like, I've always wanted to be a voice actor. It's like, that sounds weird to me. That's like someone saying, I've always wanted to act on a sitcom about cops. It's like, that's really specific. It's a really specific goal. And, that has been a shift in terms of people's view of voice acting. I mean, for me, voice acting is acting. It always has been. I mean, people don't think that stage actors are qualitatively different from movie actors, even though technically there are various differences. Like don't move your arms when you're on a movie close-up. And it's the same thing with voiceover. Voice acting is the same as movie acting at its heart, but there are technical differences between the two. Like whatever face you make doesn't count. And of course, within the industry, there's various issues in terms of, feature films, animated features. A lot of times they don't understand that the people who do cartoons on TV are just as talented as, or in fact, generally better suited than getting some celebrity actor who's never worked behind a microphone before.
Yeah.
But they're also throwing away tons of money and they don't really care that it takes 50 takes when if you get Maurice LaMarche it would take you 2.
Yeah.
It's the same. The difference is whether it's good or not, and that has nothing to do with the medium. Like you can do a bad play or you can do a great play. To me, like right now I'm doing a play in LA that's a new play. It's been done maybe twice before. It's about 2 years old. That play has more in common with Pulp Fiction than it has in common with this really crappy horror movie I did in the mid-90s called Sawbones. Like, Pulp Fiction and Sawbones are this far apart. Pulp Fiction and this play are this far apart because this is the good side and this is the bad side. Like, things that are good, things that are quality, things that are well written, well made, well considered by talented people are to me of a genre. That's what I like to do. I prefer stuff that's good. As most people, most people who aren't 12. Because there's some weird thing about when you're 12, it's not really about quality, it's about impact. Yeah. That's why everybody in my generation still loves Star Wars, even though it got horrifically crappy
Yeah.
for a generation. But we still love it because we see it through our 12-year-old eyes.
Speaking of which, you also did Star Wars: The Clone Wars.
Yeah, I did the voice of Kit Fisto and Bail Organa and a couple other characters.
How was that for you know being a Star Wars fan growing up? I mean, was that like something that wow, I finally get to be involved in Star Wars?
Yeah, no, it was amazing. It was amazing. You know, that's the thing. It's like every once in a while you get, you know, to touch the hem of something that, you know, helped form you. You know, like you get to meet somebody or you get to work with somebody. I mean, I remember as a kid I used to watch the Carol Burnett show, and then years later I got to work with her on a project, you know, and it's like, it's amazing. But you sort of have to put that aside and do the job, you know.
Now, another one of your more popular works that you did was Samurai Jack, which kind of, at the peak of its popularity, pretty much, it kind of ended in a cliffhanger.
Sort of, yeah. I mean, it wasn't so much, well, we just stopped.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah, now that you mention it, sort of, most of the episodes were a cliffhanger. Because the entire premise of the story is like he's trying to get back. So basically, every time he doesn't get back, it's a cliffhanger. And there were a lot of times he had a chance to get back, and he didn't. Like he had to sacrifice it for someone else, or, you know.
So now with Mad TV, you did that. You were on there for.
I did
for
the
a good
first
amount of
5
time.
years of Mad TV, yeah.
You know, and there was, you know, a lot of cast changes. You know, from the time you started.
Well,
You know?
it ran for another 8 years after I left. All right, 7 or 8 years, yeah, which is crazy. But yeah, there. I mean, so many talented people came through there. You know, during the time I was there and after. You know, the guys who do Key and Peele, the show on Comedy Central now, came through after I left, and they're just amazing.
How does it feel to know that you're one of the people? You know, you christened that show. You know, going forward, opening the door for some of these other people to come in. You know, you're one of the original.
Yeah, I mean,
cast.
I don't know. It's sort of something you, as an actor, you can't really take any credit for. It's like, well, it wasn't my show. I didn't come up with it. Like somebody picked me, and we were lucky enough not to get canceled. Although honestly, it felt like for a while, Fox just didn't notice us, and they just kept forgetting to cancel us because nobody was watching. Certainly not those first few years, you know. But they had nothing else there.
So it's just filling up that time slot. Just kind of like, oh well, they're not.
Well, actually, there was one point I remember, our third year, when we were the only live-action comedy on Fox that did not have an all-black cast. Like, I think everything else got canceled except us, Martin, and something else. I can't remember what it was. But yeah, like, Fox could not launch a comedy.
Wow. That's pretty bad. But it's good to know that Mad TV lasted, though.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah.
It's shown through, at least. Now, you also have done Vamp.
Oh yeah,
years
Metal
before.
Gear. Mhm.
Vamp, Metal Gear. How was that, you know, doing a video game? Did you have to do all the mocap work for Vamp as well when you did that?
No, because when we did Metal Gear 2 and 4, well, when we did 2, there was no mocap. Like, back then, they weren't doing it. I mean, at least not in any broad scale and not on that game. When we did 4, there was a lot of mocap, but it was done by the Japanese actors. And they did it first, and they laid down the tracks first. We just voiced to their tracks, which is always very difficult. It's basically like video game anime, you know, because the Japanese actor has done his lines, and you have to do the English version, and you just have to get out before he stops talking, but you can't understand him.
So is it a thing that did they actually have one of the Japanese people there when you were reading the lines?
No. They have the footage of, when we did 2, we had a screen that had the vocal track. You know how it's got the up and the down? And you would basically have to watch the cursor go across and see it when it stops going like that, stop talking. Yeah, otherwise it's too long and we can't use it. We have to do another take. And when we did Metal Gear 4, we were watching video footage of the Japanese actors in the mocap suits on wooden sets acting out the game. Yeah.
It's very elaborate.
That was actually even harder because there was nothing to see except a thing would come up with your character's name. You know, like while Vamp was talking, he would say Vamp, and then when he was done talking, he would go away.
So you have that little window of opportunity.
But you can't even see when it's going to end. Like with the cursor thing, at least you can tell. Uh-oh, I better speed up. You know.
Oh wow. That sounds like a very guerrilla-ish type of, you know.
Well,
tactics there.
And that's what we get paid for. That's the challenge, is to try to do the emotional stuff, but within the technical constraints.
So who has been your personal or some of your personal favorite characters to voice in anime or, you know, video games?
I mean, obviously, I like Vamp just because it's a real departure from most of the stuff I get to do, and it's a voice that people, you know, if they don't know, they can't tell it's me, which is always fun. Let's see, I loved doing John Stewart on the Justice League and Justice League Unlimited series, and Static Shock, which is like one of the first series that I did. Yeah, those were all just like great, well-written shows, you know, which is job one, and also just fun characters to play.
Yeah, I think, and there's a lot of distinction between those characters too.
Yeah. Well, they're all
Very much,
very different. Yeah.
And there's, you know, I've seen, you know, in like episodes. I think it was an episode of Static Shock where he
Oh, the
actually met John
crossover?
Stewart. Yeah.
Yeah, there was an episode of Static Shock where Green Lantern guested, and then there was also an episode of Justice League where Static guested.
Yeah, that's right. And so how was it? You're basically, you know, talking to yourself.
Yeah. Yeah, it's fun. Again, another challenge. You have to make sure that they sound as different as possible, but you can't change it. So it's like, okay. And that's always the trick with voiceover impressions or whatever, is we always hear our own voices in things, and so you want to make sure it's like, oh, does that sound too much like me? And sometimes you hear it more than anybody else will. So you have to like sort of back off and go, you know what? The voice is only half the character. There's also the visual element. And, you know, if, you know, at one point Jon Stewart's voice gets a little bit high, no one's going to think, oh, he's turned into Static. Because he looks like, you know, you have to credit the visuals.
So there you go. All right. Well, thank you so much for your time, Phil.
Sure.
We appreciate it. Thank you very much. And this is John signing off. Guys, if you're out there, applaud this man. Is there a website that people can go to check out some of your work? Oh yeah, LaMarr.com. PhILLAMARR. 2 L's in the middle, 2 R's at the end. Be sure to check it out.